Hi, welcome to Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera, Season 3. I'd like to give a very special shout out to my podcast partner, Perpetual Buzz Experiences. You can check them out on www.perpetualbuzz.com. 2023 was such an exciting year with several noteworthy highlights. The podcast won the Hubhopper Podcast Awards for the category of Best Interview Podcast of 2023, and it followed with several live podcast formats at the NCPA International Jazz Festival, the Snarky Puppy India Tour, and Steve Vai's Indian Tour. I'd like to show you all a little sneak peek of what happened in 2023.
Hello, everybody. This is Paul Gilbert.
Hello everybody, this is Purbain Chatterjee.
I'm Ludovico Einaudi.
Hi, this is Antonio Sanchez.
In India, this is Jordan Rudess from the
And this is Adrian Vandenberg.
ギタリストリサ X です。
Hey, this is Rhonda Smith.
Hi, I'm Harold Faltermeyer.
This is Dave Weckley.
Hi, this is Bill Frisell.
Hey, this is Julian Jujimani. You're watching Stewards of Music with Aditya Veera.
You're listening to Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera.
You're listening to Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera.
And you're listening to Stalwart of Music with Aditya Veera.
And you're listening to Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera.
Hello, India. Hello, Bharat. I will be talking to Aditya Veera for his series Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera.
Good to know that.
Yeah, it's by far one of the most intelligent interviews.
An interesting choice of questions. Very well presented.
I like where you're coming from and your questions, and you've done your research, and you're.
It was a pleasure to discuss all those great topics that you put on the table, and I was lucky to be with you in this hour. I spent a beautiful hour with you. Thank you.
Very nice interview. I am very happy that your questions were very, very nice, and even you are so young, you have the depth and you have the knowledge. So I congratulate you, Aditya.
He is connecting people from this side of the globe to the other side of the globe. He's doing an amazing job. I would kindly request that you all check out Aditya Veera on his Instagram and his YouTube channel. His Instagram, I think, is ADIX 70. So give it up for Aditya Veera, everyone. Go check it out.
Season 3 2024 seems very promising already. I'm bringing to you the best of artists in every possible genre on this planet. I'd like to give yet another special mention for the Mahindra Blues Festival, which is marking its 12th year. It returns on the 10th and 11th of February 2024 at Mumbai's Mehboob Studio. It's a pivotal part of Asia's blues scene and India's blues movement. The festival has been a platform for both global and homegrown blues talent. Mahindra's consistent support for arts and culture is evident through its 11-year commitment to providing an unparalleled blues experience in Mumbai. The festival has hosted legends like Buddy Guy, John Mayall, and the Taj Mahal. I'm delighted to inform you all that Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera is partnering with Hyperlink Brand Solutions for a one of a kind music festival podcast featuring three incredible artists: Dana Fuchs, Vanessa Collier, and Samantha Fish. The episodes will be out on my YouTube channel on the 21st of January, 28th of January, and 4th of February, exclusively on my YouTube channel, Aditya Veera 1994. And don't forget to get your tickets for the festival happening on the 10th and 11th of February. Ticket details are in the description. The National Centre of Performing Arts in Mumbai announces the 5th edition of Mumbai's dance season, starting from January 18th to the 4th of February 2024. This 18-day cultural celebration features 27 events showcasing over 100 classical dancers. The initiative aims to unite various Indian classical dance forms through performances, lecture demonstrations, workshops, and masterclasses. Events will take place all across Mumbai, Greater Mumbai, and Navi Mumbai. It's being co-curated by noteworthy artists such as Jayashree Nair and Lata Rajesh. The season will offer a diverse range of performances, including choreography on Tamil literature and a Kathak tribute to Pandit Briju Maharaj. Speaking of the much-awaited spring season of the Symphony Orchestra of India 2024, it will commence on the 2nd of February and concludes by the 16th. It will take place at the National Centre of Performing Arts, Mumbai. The artistic direction is by Mr. Marit Bessian Galiv. It will also feature renowned guest artists that include conductor Martin Brabants, pianist Barry Douglas, mezzo-soprano Sasha Cook, and many more. Symphony Orchestra of India is the one and only country's full-time professional orchestra, and it celebrates its 18th year. So music lovers all throughout the country are invited to experience the promising spring season of 2024 at NCPA. I have a series of album premieres lined up for you all, starting with guitar legend Scott Henderson, who will be releasing his highly anticipated album Carnival on the 2nd of February 2024. Carnival features a diverse set of beautiful compositions and demonstrates Scott's striking ability to combine elements of jazz, rock, funk, blues in an authentic and very seamless way. The album was recorded live in the studio with Romain on bass and Archibald on drums. The same musicians featured on People Mover as well. The theme of the entire album revolves around the idea of being at a fair. Scott drives comparisons to the LA Fair or Disneyland, filled with the crazy atmosphere with variety in terms of music. This album will have 11 incredible tracks, and if you wish to place an order, you can feel free to place an order on www.amazon.com. And you can grab an audio CD copy for sure. You can also head out to the online shop on scotthenderson.net and get an autographed CD. You don't want to miss that. The legendary US blues rock guitar player Walter Trout has navigated over 7 decades in the American blues rock scene. And I'm delighted to present to you yet another album premiere, which we would be having as part of season 3. I'm talking about his new album, Broken, which has some incredible original tracks that ranges from a raging sound to soothing music. It was recorded at the King Size Sound Labs in LA. The album includes collaborations with artists like Beth Hart, Dee Schneider, and harmonica player Will. It's set to release on the 1st of March 2024 and will be available as a LP, CD, and will be also available in digital formats for people to consume. So head out to www.waltertrout.com and get your official merchandise from there. Melissa Manchester is all set to put out her 25th album review on the 23rd of February. The album features special guests like Kenny Loggins, Dolly Parton, and Gerald Albright. So don't forget to mark your dates and look out for the album release. Guitar virtuoso Scott Henderson is playing in Bangalore on the 12th and 13th of April 2024. This event is powered by Total Environment Music Foundation, which is a non-profit entity of the Total Environment Group, which promotes music in India. And it'll be happening at Windmill Craftworks, which is a world-class jazz theater where you can witness some of the best international acts in Bangalore. Speaking of Scott, he emerged in the 1980s with the legendary band Tribal Tech, which was a significant force, as we all know, in jazz fusion music. He's recorded 10 critically acclaimed albums with Tribal Tech, establishing a prominent presence in the fusion genre. He was influenced by blues rock and funk during his upbringing in South Florida. His musical inspirations include Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Jimi Hendrix, Ritchie Blackmore, and blues guitarist Albert King. He studied arranging and composition at Florida Atlantic University. He's played with several noteworthy bands that include the Chick Corea Electric Band, and he's also played with reputed violinist Jean-Luc Ponty. He's worked with Joe Zawinul of Weather Report for close to about 4 years and recorded 3 albums as part of the Zawinul Syndicate. In terms of recognitions, he was named as #1 jazz guitar player in Guitar Player's annual Readers' Poll in 1992, and he was voted as #1 jazz guitar player in Guitar World magazine back in 91. He won the Best Guitar Player and Best Rock Jazz Contemporary Group in Jazz Times Readers' Poll in 2019. He's toured worldwide, spreading his unique blend of jazz, blues, rock, and also funk audiences in diverse cultural settings. My special guest is none other than Chirag Toi. He's a songwriter, guitar player, band leader based out of Ahmedabad. His compositions range from jazz rock to pop, and he's been inspired by idols such as Larry Carlton, John Mayer, and even Scott Henderson. He's a voting member at the Recording Academy. He's had a great stint in 2023. He's had numerous accolades, won national awards, and played at the NH7 Weekender Festival, among the other tours and festivals that he'd put up for all of us in 2023. And 2024 is even bigger because he gets to play at the Lollapalooza Festival on the 28th of January. Be sure to catch him on the Nexa Music stage as Heat Sync. So without any further ado, I'm delighted to welcome my guest for today, Scott Henderson, and my special guest who will be joining in for a very special segment, Chirag Toi.
Hi, this is Scott Henderson. I've got a new album out called Carnival, so hope you'll check it out. You're listening to Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera.
Hi, Scott. Namaste. Welcome to Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera, Season 3. We are kicking off our season with our very first interview this new year with you, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you so much. Great to be here. Thanks.
I have prepared a very elaborate agenda, being the first ever show on Season 3 with an Indian album premiere for your much-awaited album. I can't wait to do this interview with you.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate all the help. I really do, because this kind of music, it's not mainstream, so every bit of help with the press and everything, it all helps to spread the news. So I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Pleasure is mine. Pleasure is mine. I had a baller time listening to the album. We will come to it, but before we get started with our agenda today, Could you tell me when the process of surrendering to music really starts in the context of a performance, just before that first note that resonates on your instrument?
I think the most important thing is relaxation. If you're not relaxed, it's not going to work. Like you have to get rid of the ego, because we have that voice sitting there on our shoulder telling us as musicians that everything we play sucks. And if you listen to that voice, things will usually spiral downward pretty fast. So you kind of have to Bill Frisell said a really, really prolific thing, I thought, in one of his interviews in Guitar Player magazine, where he said you have to disattach yourself from the notes. Like, as soon as you play them, they're played. So don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Let them just fly out into the air and continue, because if you get hung up on everything that you play and thinking about it and analyzing it while you're trying to play it, that's the wrong mindset to play. You have to be relaxed and just basically be there to have fun and listen to your fellow bandmates and play from the ideas that they give you, and hopefully they'll play from the ideas that you give them. And the whole thing is supposed to be a conversation. So when you make it too much about yourself and it's too ego based and you're judging yourself as you play, that's the worst mindset you can be in a performance. In fact, I don't like to call it a performance, because just the word performance sort of describes a thing where people are judging it. Right. I prefer to call it participation in something that we all love to do. When you're participating in something, you're enjoying it. You're there for the journey. You're there for just the fun of it, not to be judged or not to try to show off or prove to someone that you can do something. That's kind of the wrong mindset. I don't like to be in that mindset.
I really like how modest you are with everything that you said, and I love the humility of the fact that you look at enjoying this journey as a musician. You don't sort of like to put a tag to it like a performance or whatnot. You just go with the flow, which is incredible.
I mean, I sort of look at it like, in a way, to make a weird analogy, but when I like football, I'm into football. So, when a quarterback is going to throw the ball and he's got like a bunch of guys trying to tackle him from here and from over here and from over here, and he's looking for a receiver way the hell down the field to throw the ball to, that's a moment that will never happen quite the same way again. It's one of those things where if you're not in the moment, you won't do a good job. So no matter what he practiced to get to that point, he can't think about that. He has to think about that very moment that he's in at this time. And music is like that. When you let yourself be in the moment and don't think about other things, like don't think about the lick that you were practicing, this afternoon, because that's not how music works. You don't practice licks and then try to force them into the music, because a lot of times if you do that, it's just out of context. It doesn't belong there, unless maybe it could. There's a possibility that it could, but usually when you try to force things to happen, it doesn't feel right. So, but if you're there in the moment and you're playing what you hear based on that very moment of music that you're in, usually it's easier to have a conversation with the people around you. So I kind of go for that, and just try to get rid of all those demons that make you nervous when you're playing, because everybody has a little bit of stage fright when they get on stage. Me too. There's that moment when you walk out on stage and part of you is going, oh God, there's so many people here, don't fuck up. Or, some famous guy is out here, that you really respect, and that he knows if you're going to make mistakes. And that kind of thinking can really mess you up, so you got to turn all that off and just say, I'm who I am, and I'm just going to do the best I can, but mainly I'm going to have fun, and I'm not going to worry, and I'm not going to be stressed. I'm just going to have a good time. And when you're having fun, you play your best.
Right on, Scott. I love the attitude, and I hope a lot of musicians learn from this. This very analogy that you mentioned to sort of detach
Yeah.
and move forward.
It's easier said than done. It takes practice. I mean, you can always say, "Oh, I'm going to be relaxed," and then you get out there on stage and you're scared to death. And we all have those moments where we're stage fright. It's just part of, we get butterflies in our stomach and we're just like, "Oh my God, I hope I don't screw this up."
Mhm.
But I guess after enough experience and after enough years of having gigs that failed because you were in that mindset,
Mhm.
it becomes easier to not be in that mindset. It's funny because we all care about the event of putting on a good show for people, but the more you care, usually the worse it is. So when you don't give a fuck,
Stop freaking out.
you play, you have fun and you play better and you're more creative when you just don't give a fuck.
Right.
But it's weird because we actually do care, and we know we care. Do care. But when you care to the point where you're nervous,
Mhm.
that's going to mess things up. You can't be nervous on stage. You have to be relaxed. And when you're relaxed, you'd always do your best, no matter what it is. If it's music, sports, sex, whatever. If you're not relaxed,
Yeah.
you're not going to be, it's not going to go right for you. You
sure.
have to be relaxed. And that's a lesson it took me a long time to learn, but I think I'm finally getting it in my old age.
Better late than never.
Yeah, better late than never.
Congratulations on the album Carnival.
Thank you.
I had a great time listening to it, like I mentioned earlier. The
Thanks so
initial
much.
track of this album gives listeners the feeling of being at an actual carnival. I can hear bells ringing, kids going crazy on a roller coaster ride, announcements being made, and then the sound of airsoft guns at a shooting gallery. There's a lot of attention to detail that has gone into the introductory track. So could you start with that?
Well, I know this, it sounds, it's a hard question to answer because being that it's instrumental music and it doesn't have vocals, I don't really know what I'm going to call these songs until after I've listened to them for a while when they're finished. So I write a piece of music and then I listen to it for a while. And, when I'm writing it, I'm only thinking about the music itself. I'm not really thinking about any kind of theme or anything. But then when I listen to the music, I go, what does this remind me of? Like what? And I think sometimes it comes quickly. Sometimes it's weeks
Mhm.
before I can put my finger on what is this song really, what image in my brain is this song creating when I listen to it. And for the title cut, it reminded me, I don't know why, but it just reminded me of the fair, of the LA fair that me and my daughter have gone to for years. And there's especially a part where the drums are kind of playing a double snare drum. It reminded me of horses. and I thought, well, where are their horses? And I thought of a merry-go-round, and I thought this whole thing has kind of like a carnival feeling to me. I don't know why. It just, that's the image it put in my head. So I decided, if that's going to be the first cut on the album, why not make a little intro, of a real carnival, where people are having fun and it's not like always a happy carnival. It's a little bit of a mysterious carnival.
Exactly.
It's how sometimes the fair gives not just an atmosphere of fun, but also mystery a little bit,
Correct.
where you never know what you're going to see when you go in the haunted house or
the ballroom, the green ballroom.
Yeah, sure. There's all these aspects to the fair.
Yeah.
And I love it because I mean, Disneyland is great. I love Disneyland, but the fair is way more quirky and it's
Correct.
way more ridiculous and just over the top. And I don't know, it just reminded me of all the times I went there with my daughter and how much fun we had making fun of the haunted houses that aren't scary at all. You know, most of them are broken where the hand is supposed to move, but it's stuck and it just does this. You know, just some funny stuff. And that's what that particular tune reminded me of. So
interesting. Speaking of the second track, the title track itself, there is this very unique guitar sound in the opening of the track, which sort of gives it that spirit of the mystical, like you said.
Yeah.
Right. So could you throw some light on the tone that was used there?
Yeah, that one that's probably the Zoya. There's a really great new pedal by, it's not that new, it's maybe 5 years old, but it's made by Empress and it's called the Zoya.
Okay.
And it's a really cool pedal. It's kind of hard to program, but there are also a lot of really great sounds out there on the internet for it that people have spent a lot of time programming it and making patches for it. So I'm not advanced enough as a Zoya programmer. So a lot of times I'll just go on the internet and scroll through patches and try to find something that I think fits. And I actually sent $100 to one of the programmers because I said, this is too, it's on the song Bilge Rat.
Yeah.
All those weird sounds that sound like keyboards, that's the Zoya. And it just basically plays by itself. You don't have to enter a note into it for it to do its thing. You just turn it on and it just plays.
Okay.
And I thought this sound is such an important part of the tune. I can't not pay this guy because, you know, these sounds are free. But I said, this is such an important thing. I sent him $100 and I said, you got to get paid for this because this is too amazing of a sound. I don't feel right using it for free. So, but that's probably one of what you're hearing. A lot of the weirder noises that you hear on the record, the ambient stuff, a lot of it is the Zoya or it's Sound Toys. I don't know if are you familiar with Sound Toys?
I've heard of it, but I haven't really.
It's a company that makes plugins.
Okay.
And unlike say the Waves plugins, which are more like, I would call them utility plugins, like compressors, you know, stuff that engineers use, EQ, compression, that kind of stuff. Sound Toys is way more on the creative side, like flangers, phasers, envelope filters, crazy shit. Like they have something called Effects Rack where you can put millions of plugins into one rack and just make the weirdest outer space, like movies, like soundtrack from a horror movie or something like that. You know, just really crazy sounds. And those are used quite a bit on my albums, even though they're mixed way back in the background. You might not notice it's there, but if it was not there, you'd notice that it was gone. You know, and I kind of learned that from Joe Zawinul. Joe Zawinul always told me, always put things in your music that are very, very, very low in the mix, because even though people don't really hear it in the way that they hear the main parts, they're there and they create an atmosphere, and it's just I don't know, it's an ambient thing. It creates a mood, even though you're not it's almost subliminal. So I like that kind of stuff, you know.
And there was a
it's
little
like Go ahead.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it's like when you watch a Star Wars movie, you have to see it 3 or 4 times before you see everything. You know?
Of course. There's a lot of aspects that one might want to sort of revisit.
It's kind of dense.
I also hear a sitar tone towards the end of the song, if I'm not mistaken.
There's sitar. 3 or 4 tunes on the album. I have a really nice electric sitar.
Oh, wow.
It's It's not really expensive. It's made by, was it made by Jerry Jones, I think.
All right.
But it's a really nice, it's not expensive at all. Like I think I pay like $700 for it. It's cheap.
Okay.
But it's got terrible intonation because it's kind of a cheap guitar, but it sounds great. You know, it's a really nice sounding instrument. I think on that song "Do It Again," Steely Dan,
Yeah.
you know, Denny Diaz played that great electric sitar solo.
Correct.
And ever since I was a kid and heard that, I always wanted an electric sitar. So I actually used it on Vibe Station on Manic Carpet.
Okay.
It's the same guitar. I love the sound of it. It's just really a great sound, even though it's hard as hell to tune it because it's just made so cheaply.
Yeah.
It actually takes more time to tune than to play.
There was another track, I think it's Acacia, where there's some really nice tabla too. Was that done by you? Did you
Sorry,
give
I
it a
didn't
shot?
understand. There's some nice what?
Tabla parts. Indian percussion. Was it
Oh,
tabla?
tablas. Yeah. Those are electronic. Those are from Scott Kinsey. Yeah.
Oh,
Because
wow.
I know a tabla player.
Right. But there are
But
quite a few
Scott
in India.
Scott is such a great he really knows how to make percussion sound real, and he
it
he
sounded
has a
damn
feel-
real.
Yeah, I mean, he hand played those passages by hand on his keyboard,
Mm.
and I mean, it really does sound like real tablas. And they're samples, of course,
Yeah.
but the way he played it, he's just a great musician. And Scott is very good with different kinds of music from Africa, from India, he's very well versed in all kinds of music from all around the world because his music is kind of like world music.
For sure.
And so he's really good at that kind of stuff. So he plays on almost every song some kind of electronic percussion that maybe it's in the background a little bit. Like he played the steel drums on Bill's Rat. There's some steel drums, and he played that. And the only real percussion on the album is the congas on See Around Us and COVID
Correct.
Vaccination. That's actually a real conga player. So a good one.
Yeah. In fact, I interviewed Scott in season 2, and we were talking about some of the interesting projects that he had worked on. I believe the two of you were part of Matters of the Heart with Mr. Sandeep Chota in India.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's another incredible album.
Which
One of my-
Sandeep brought Tribal Tech to India.
Yeah.
And so of course he knows Scott.
Yeah.
And now everybody knows Scott. I mean, he's one of the most amazing musicians I know. You know, he's just so gifted harmonically, and he has just an amazing wisdom about music. He's just incredible. You know, so I'm lucky to have him as he's one of my best friends, and I'm lucky to know him.
Well, I've loved the camaraderie and the stage chemistry that you all have had over the years, and both of you have great taste of Indian classical music too. I've heard a little bit of someone playing this. I don't know if you know this Indian instrument called the guttam on Renegade.
Yeah,
you guys
absolutely.
played it on Renegade. I think it was on Renegade with Tribal Tech. Right? So was it? Did you get a guttam player from India?
No, that's Kinsey. That's Kinsey. You know, yeah. I mean, he just has the biggest arsenal of sounds that I. You know, if you tell him, look, I want something that sounds like one of those, he's going to just pull it up in 2 minutes, and he's going to say, "Oh, is this what you're looking for?" And you go, "Yep, that's it." He knows. I don't know how he knows where all this stuff is on his computer, because he has so many hundreds of libraries of sounds. I don't know how he knows where they all are. Like, it's crazy.
No, but the art of sort of making it sound real is something else altogether. And
You
he
just
does
have
it
to be
so well.
familiar with that music, and he is, because he's done so much work for musicians all over the world, and he's way more versed in ethnic music than I am. I'm just an American you know, that's mainly blues based.
Yeah.
And I have a little bit of knowledge, but compared to Kinsey, I have no knowledge. Kinsey knows these instruments, and I'm a guy that just knows what I like when I hear it.
Yeah.
You know, and Kinsey will say, well, try this. I think you're going to like this. And it's like, wow, that's so cool.
And the album also has a lot of Latin American rhythms and a lot of tunes. I've heard a little bit of samba, and I believe you've also sort of, you know, done a song which was probably your visit to Porto Madero.
Yeah, Puerto Madero. That's a city in part of Buenos Aires.
Yeah,
a section of Buenos Aires,
right.
And beautiful place on the water. It's really nice.
Right.
Yeah, that song does have a Latin flavor, I guess.
Correct.
And you know, it's hard for me to remember the beginnings of tunes, because often I don't remember what inspired me to write a song, but I'm always looking for different grooves.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things about making an album that's very difficult for me and maybe other composers as well is making sure that there's very different grooves for each song, so that you don't repeat yourself. So I think that's one of the first things I do. I try to think of just come up with different grooves, and I have no idea what the music's going to sound like, but at least I know that the songs are going to be different from each other, and they're going to be different tempos, different grooves. And I don't know how I found that groove. I think that's one of the ones I just might have made it up myself on my drum machine and just came up with a beat that I like. And after I do that, I just let it go and I just jam over it for a long time until I come up with some ideas that I like for a song. But I can't remember how I came up with it or why, just that maybe just to be different from the other songs. But I don't know. I can't remember.
Fair enough.
Sorry, I'm not much help there, but
well, full points to the credits mentioned in your album cover. You've nearly credited everyone who's been part of the journey. Let's take a look at the album cover. I'd like to show the Indian audiences the efforts that have been put into something like this. So as you can see, there's so much of detailing. You've thanked everyone who's sort of, you know, helped you with the gear, people who've sponsored strings, Dario, and this is incredible. I've never seen this in an album cover.
Well, that's lots of people do it. Some people don't. I don't know. I just feel like anybody that helped deserves thanks for it. So many people do so much for us, just out of the kindness of their heart, you know. And it's really, you know, I just am very appreciative of these people for helping us.
Yeah. And what are the guitars that have been used in this particular?
Well, those are actual fun mirrors from the Carnival, you know, and those are what the guitars look like in the mirrors.
Yeah.
It was fun to do.
But you've got similar guitars, like probably similar colors.
They are my guitars.
Yeah,
they're just in the mirrors make them look like that.
There's so much of thought that has gone into that as well.
Yeah, because you know they have the fun house in the Carnival where you
I know what you're talking about.
Stand there and makes you look all funny. So I thought it'd be fun to have guitars that look like that. I have about 30 or 40 of those, and it was hard to pick my favorites for the album cover because I have at least 30 or 40 more pictures like those.
Incredible.
I posted them on my Facebook page, some of them.
I did see one on your Instagram as well. Probably the guitars you posted yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Incredible. I'd like to play 1 minute of the song for the Indian audiences. I'd like to play the title track.
Mm-hmm.
a sneak peek of Carnival by the one and only Scott Henderson for the people of India.
That was the little part right there that you just played, that last section that reminds me of horses.
Right, right.
Because the beats go ta 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 ta. Sounds like a horse trot.
Yeah. Oh, you all are so creative. It's just creative with
fun.
Almost every aspect. Yeah.
You know what I love? One of the things that just worked out just by coincidence is that when I was looking on the web for sounds from a carnival, because there's a great website. It's called let me tell you what the name of this website is.
Sure.
Because people should check this website out. If you're looking for sounds, it's a great website for sounds. It is Pro Sound Effects.
Got it.
And it's really cheap. It's like $5 a sound.
Wow.
So it's cheap. Yeah. So I was looking for carnival sounds, and one of the sounds that I was looking for happened to have this circus organ.
Okay.
Right. And it's playing a phrase. It's going da 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 da. Right. Yeah. And it's like in a major key. Yeah. Well, luckily, when I went to F sharp minor, I was able to bring later in the song during the sitar solo, it goes to F sharp minor, and that lick sounds even cooler in minor, in F sharp minor.
Yeah,
I brought the organ back in the middle of the sitar solo, and it just worked out that it sounded really cool in F sharp minor. So it was just a luck, just one of those coincident things, that was worked out really well in the song. And sometimes when you're doing projects like this and you move things around, you find places where they fit. And that's one of the things that I've learned from Scott Kinsey. One of the things he told me is, and it's really interesting, he will just pick a sound that he likes and just improvise on that sound through the whole song, and then find these little moments of things that he did that he likes. And even if he played through the whole song, he might only find two or three little things that he really likes. And then he finds a place in the song where they fit really well. And then he picks another sound and then does the same thing, plays through the whole song, picks his two favorite things and puts those somewhere. And then after a while, he kind of builds. It's like sculpting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Making a sculpture. And after a while, it sort of builds and sort of morphs into this finished thing that's really, really cool. But that's the process of how he does it. And I thought that's really interesting. So I started doing that too. Just copying Kinsey.
Marvelous. Marvelous. In fact, improvisation is a very significant part of what you do in terms of music. Have you observed any distinct differences in how your brain processes music when you're improvising compared to when you're playing pre-composed pieces? Do you believe in cerebral lateralization that affects improvisational styles?
I'm not quite sure what that is. I have to take that back. What did you call it?
It's called cerebral lateralization. That sort of it's the concept it's a concept of the right and the left brain.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I believe in that because that's a proven scientific fact.
Yeah.
Your right brain is the creative side. Your left brain is the more analytical side.
Yeah.
So when you're playing music like I do, you have to be two people. There's the classical guy and there's the jazz guy, right? And of course, there's the rock and blues guy too, and the funk guy and the country guy, because my music is. But just from what we're talking about, let's boil it down to just classical and improvisation. There's the composed and the improvised. And you have to keep jumping back and forth between those two people. And it's not something that's very easy to do because when your mind is in that creative space, you don't want to go away from that. You don't want to have to come back and play a written part that you play the same way every night, but you have to, because if you don't, you're going to be playing 20-minute long pieces in the set, and you're only going to have room for 3 songs in the set of music. So This was the problem I had with Joe Zawinul when I was working with Joe. Joe is such an incredible improviser that once he gets into that improvising frame of mind, it was very hard to get him out of it. So he would tell me, I took over Jocko's job, because that was also Jocko's job. And Joe would tell Jocko, look, if we get into one of those jams and it just keeps going, signal the next section of the song. And if I get pissed off, do it anyway, because I know that we can't play 25-minute long songs in the night. So that was Jocko's job. Then it became my job in that band. Like, okay, that's it. You know, we've been in this little jamming section for way too long. It's time to move on. Right. And then I would signal the band to go to the next section. And of course, Joe would be really pissed off. But he knows it has to happen. So it's the same for us. It's hard to snap yourself out of that place where you're totally free and you've got all the freedom you want. Now I got to go back and play this part, but if you don't, the song won't ever end. So it's just, yeah. I mean, that's why, sometimes when we have a set, we like to play one song that's just jamming. We don't know what's going to happen. Someone starts playing and we do a jam, just so that creative energy doesn't get stifled by playing songs the same every night. And also we have a big song list so that we don't have to play the same tunes every night. In fact, we probably have double the songs that we need so that we can just choose, what do you feel like playing? Oh, we played that last night. Let's play this tonight. And just so that, when you play night after night, it's not the same every night, because that can kind of ruin your creative flow. So we try to mix it up as much as we can, but at the same time, you've got to give the audience a show. That's what they paid for. So there are some left brain moments where, you're just playing the same part, the same melody, the same thing that you played night after night. It's part of the song and the audience wants to hear it. So Larry Carlton used to put it this way: you've got to give half your show to yourself and half your show to the audience. And the audience wants to hear the song, so you got to play them. But then the other half of the show's for you. You just jam and be creative. And that's what we love to do. So I don't know, finding that balance between composition and improvisation is not easy to do. Sometimes you feel like you did a good job. Sometimes we feel like, man, there's way too much composition on stage. We've got to get rid of this tune because this tune is not allowing us to be creative with it. It's too composed. It sounds the same every single night we play it. And usually those songs don't last very long. We play them for a week and we throw them away because we weren't able to make it fun to play. It's just too much like, okay, I don't mind if there's one or two songs like that in the set, but when there's more, you start feeling like, oh shit, I feel like I'm playing in a top 40 band, So we try to find that balance. Yeah.
I see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having yet another very interesting conversation with a neuroscientist about the human brain adapting to certain frequencies. Have you ever wondered or asked yourself this question, that you have sort of evolved as a musician listening to a certain lineage of artists? From what I've gathered, you've enjoyed the music of Jimmy Page, Ritchie Blackmore, Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck, and John Scofield.
Those are a few, but there's a lot more.
Of course.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get at is, there are certain frequencies that resonate with you. right? Maybe
Yeah.
let me break it down a little simpler. If you were to play a John Scofield tune to a little baby, a newborn baby, do you think it would resonate? Like, would it be able to understand those frequencies, or is it more of a pattern based thing? You get used to it, um, you know, with
Some of it is
experience.
very subjective because
Mm.
everybody has their own personal taste of what they like and what they don't like.
Yeah.
And some of it is, I hate to use the words good and bad sometimes because music and any kind of art
Correct.
is subjective. One guy sees a movie, he thinks it's the greatest movie in the world, and another guy
Yeah.
thinks it's the worst movie he's ever seen.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's true, though it can mean that. Like, when the majority of people that like something and they're really experienced in that idiom and they see a movie like, most people would agree that Gone with the Wind is a great film,
Yeah.
right? You'd find very few people who would say it's not,
Mm.
right? So, but yet, from one person's perspective, it may not be a good movie, and that person has the right to not like it. Whereas the majority of people do like it because it's really a great film. And so I don't know. It's kind of like music. Just about anything from John Scofield. He's such a brilliant artist. I don't really see how anyone would not like his playing or what he does, because the majority of us that listen to jazz or listen to this kind of music, we like John and we like his music.
Yeah.
And what's not to like? But some people don't like him. And okay, they have their reasons. Maybe he doesn't play fast enough. Some people really like fast notes.
Yeah.
And John Scofield isn't one of those guys that plays fast. He's more of a stylist than a virtuoso. You know what I mean? And I consider myself more of a stylist than a virtuoso. I'm not one of those fast. I don't have any chops. Most of my students can play faster than me. So I don't really, so if you're looking for that in the music, if you're looking to be like blown away by the speed or the chops of my music's probably not going to be very appealing to those kind of listeners, and neither would John's be, because it's not about chops. They would be better off listening to Gambali or Guthrie Govan, or Matteo Mancuso, the Italian kid, who plays fast, or Holdsworth. There's a lot of guys that speed thing, that ultra amazing chops thing is in their playing. And if that's the kind of music you like, then you're probably going to gravitate toward those kind of players more, right? I like them too. It's not that I don't like them, but I can't do that. So I don't. I don't try because I can't.
Makes sense.
But I enjoy them doing it, but I don't have those kind of chops.
From whatever you said, it's more of a pattern based thing. Like it's more like an acquired taste, right? You
Yeah.
keep listening to it and then you build on it, and
I
you
think-
sort of develop interest for a
I
certain
think,
kind of music.
as an example,
Mhm.
you could put $100 bottle of wine on the table
Yeah.
and a $20 bottle of wine, and I probably would not be able to tell you which was which, because I don't know anything about wine. I very rarely drink it. But the drummer, Alan Hertz,
Mhm.
and the guy who engineered Vibe Station, People Mover, and this, he was brought up in Napa Valley. He's been drinking wine since he was 3 years old. So he can tell you not only the year, but he can tell you the people who made it. He's like a connoisseur of wine. And often, like, we would be on the road and the restaurant would serve him the house wine, and we would all be going, "Oh, this is so good," and he would be going, "This is garbage," and he'd tell the guy, "Bring me this bottle of wine," and it would be like $300,
Yeah.
and he would plop down $300,
Yeah.
and because that's what he wanted. He knew what he wanted. So when you think music is like that too, for people that have never heard jazz, it's all going to sound the same to them.
Yeah.
But after years and years and years of listening to it I used to think all saxophone players sounded the same. I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference. If it was John Coltrane or Wayne Shorter, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
It just sounds like a saxophone player to me. But after years and years of listening to different sax players, I've gotten a lot better at just, even though I don't play the saxophone, I can tell who's who, usually in a couple of notes of the major guys. You know, like I can definitely hear the difference between Charlie Parker and Wayne Shorter. You know, and it's just listening, just experience of listening over the years. And the more you listen, the more you hear the subtle differences in what people do.
You had to turn down Miles Davis's offer during his later years, and you chose to play with Joe Zawinul instead. So I'm sure you didn't regret that decision, but what was the impetus behind this decision?
Well, I mean, to be honest, and not to say anything negative about Miles, because I love Miles, but toward the end, it wasn't very good. You know, he was not. His band wasn't that great. I saw one of the performances of that band, and it was not very good. I didn't like it. I didn't like the music they were playing. It was basically just one chord jams, and they were playing Cyndi Lauper tunes, and it was just like, oh man, you know, and nobody looked happy on stage. And they had a guy playing piccolo bass. His name was Foley. I know the guy's a good musician, but he was running around the stage like David Lee Roth. And I was like, Jesus Christ, do I really want to be a part of this? And I was like, nah. And I've been waiting to play for Joe with Joe for so many years. And Joe has been one of my all-time favorite musicians for so long. It was kind of a no-brainer to take the gig with Joe. So, yeah, it wasn't much of a decision, really. I mean, it would have been nice to say I played with Miles Davis because I'm a huge fan. But at that point in his career, it was toward the end and it wasn't going well. You know, it just, it wasn't good. Though I did get the opportunity to see his band when Schofield was playing with him. And that was really good. I really enjoyed that. And that was a much better version of his band than the version that I saw when they were asking around the time they were asking me to do it. So, yeah, you can tell sometimes just from the vibe.
Yeah.
You know, when you see a band, are they having fun? Didn't look like they were having fun to me. It looked like a kind of a stressy situation. And then I heard stories of Miles pouring beers on people's heads during the show. Yeah, I don't think I want to be part of that scene.
Yeah. Well, I guess you made the right decision. Good for you.
I think so.
You did well.
I think I did.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot of fun working with Joe for 3.5 years. It was an experience that I'll never forget. And I learned so much, and just being around him and just getting to watch him play and watch him compose and stuff. It was really great. And it was a wonderful experience. So
Must have been surreal.
yeah.
How important do you believe predictive timing is in terms of engaging an audience? Do you consciously play with temporal expectations to maintain their attention and interest throughout?
Well, that's kind of a planned out thing. Sometimes, even like I said, we like to switch songs and not play the same set every night.
Yeah.
You don't want to play songs that are in the same key after each other, or you don't want to play songs that are the same tempo one after another, because then the audience can get bored. You know, so to me, putting a set together does require some thinking. It's got to be kind of planned out a little bit. Like, okay, instead of playing this really up tempo tune, we're going to play this other up tempo tune, but it's going to be set in a way where the audience never gets bored. There's going to be something soft and something funky, then something rock, then maybe something swing, then something, you know, to keep to keep variety happening, because I have seen some shows that great musicians, great songs, but the set wasn't put together very well. And there were moments in the set where I thought, well, I thought that could have been put together better in a better, the editing of the songs, order of the songs could have been more put together in a more logical way. Yeah. Yeah. So it is something that I think about, because I want to give people a great show. I don't want them to be bored. And I want, there's moments where I don't play, where there's bass and drums by themselves. There's moments where I play by myself. There's moments where I have a duet with just me and the drummer. You don't want to have all three people on stage all the time. So just moments where we change up the order of things that happen. And I hope it creates a more interesting show.
I'm going to play this fantastic solo that was recorded at one of your shows in the past. And I'd like you to spot this one.
Uh-oh. I'm not likely to like it.
Well, let's see. Let's
okay.
Yeah.
I'll probably be embarrassed.
Any guesses?
I can't guess, because honestly, it's so soft that I can't hear the changes. So I'm not sure what song that is. What song is it?
All right. It is Nostalgia with Jean-Luc Ponty. It was recorded in 1984. August.
Well, no wonder I don't remember. It's so long ago.
Yeah, it was recorded in August 29th, 1984 as part of the Open Mind Tour. At Pier 84, New York City.
Okay.
3 days after your birthday.
Oh, wow. Unbelievable. Yeah. Well, I of course, every time I hear myself play, I hear what I would call like clunky phrases, phrases that don't quite make me happy. That I wish I had a phrased it a different way. But I also hear some good moments, so I don't hate it. But of course, I hear things wrong with it that I would have changed. If I could change them, I would.
Well, I must tell you this. I don't know if you're aware of this. So this was recorded by a good friend of mine, a gentleman called Rajmani Rajkumar, from down south of India. So he was at your concert, and he's a great friend of Mr. Jean-Luc Ponty. And Jean-Luc Ponty was praising this particular solo that he loved of yours. He was
cool.
He had lots to speak about this one.
Well, thanks. I mean, I don't think any improviser probably listens to his own solo and can say he's 100% happy with it. We all are very critical of our own playing, and
certainly.
It's just the nature of what we do. We all think, oh, I could have done better.
Yeah.
Oh, but like I said at the beginning of this interview, you have to get past that. When you're playing, you can't be thinking that way. But when you listen to it back, then I think it's okay to be critical, because that's how you grow. You learn from listening to yourself, and you learn, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I'll try not to do that again next time.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're doing something too much, or maybe you're playing certain rhythm too many times, and you just hear these things that make you become a better player.
Sure.
And it's good to listen to yourself. And I don't like it, but I do listen to myself. I sort of, it's torture for me to listen to myself, but because I do tend to hear the things that are wrong more than the things that are right. But that's what helps me improve. So it's part of the regiment of being a better player, listening to yourself and being critical of what you hear. We all have to do it.
True. I think that's how we improve.
Yeah, it's how we improve. And as long as that doesn't get on the stage, because that's the dangerous part, when you become critical of yourself on stage, because then you ruin the good time, you ruin the fun of it. And if music is nothing but stress to you, then you're probably not going to play that well. In fact, that's when you play the worst, when you're stressed.
Correct.
So I like to think of myself as two different people: the musician that's on stage, in the act of participating in the art form that we call music, and then the guy who analyzes it later, and learns from it and grows because of it. And I like to keep those people very separated.
That's a good thing. It's time to make this conversation a little more interesting. I'd like to invite out a very special gentleman called Chirag Toi, who is a songwriter, singer, guitar player, and he is also a Grammy voting member. He was nominated as a Grammy voting member from India this
Awesome.
year. And before I invite him, I'd like to play a sneak peek of his song. It's called Yearning. It's a wonderful song that he's worked on with Anubha Kaul. So I'm going to play a sneak peek of that for you.
I dwell in reveries and memories of glory, dreaming, eyes open wide. I tell you stories of Neverland as you sleep, lilting as lullabies. Wisdom is wonder that shines in children's eyes.
That was a sneak peek
Nice.
of Yearning by Chirag Toi featuring Anubha Kaul. So it's time to invite him on the show. Let's get him on board. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Scott. Hi, how are you?
Sounds great, man. That's some nice playing.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Really nice.
I love your playing.
Well, you got a great style, and you're a very authentic blues player, man. Really good sounds, good tone, nice
That really
phrasing.
means a lot.
Oh, really good, man.
It means so much coming from you.
You know, when I first,
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
I've been listening to you play ever since I started learning guitar and got introduced to jazz, blues, and all these genres. And I can't express like how honored I am to be meeting you today. And it means a lot coming from you that you heard my playing and you
Well,
liked
thank
it.
you, man. No, you sound great. When I was going to say, when Aditya started the song, he started it from a place, you know how sometimes you start a song and you can't find one, You don't know where
Yeah.
one is. So
Yeah.
I couldn't find one for a minute. So I was confused. I thought, is this in a different time signature? You know, but then I realized it's dun 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 dun. Then I started to
Yeah.
hear it in 4 or in 12,
Yeah.
I guess. You know, but first, is the whole song in 12, or are there different time signatures?
No. It's all in 4. So I was playing
Okay.
around with displaced quarter note triplets. So it
Okay.
gave the sense that there's a change in time signature, but it was all coming back to the downbeat on 4.
Gotcha. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes when a song doesn't start on 1, you have a difficult
Yeah.
time figuring out where it was. But,
True.
wow, this is in some really interesting times. So yeah.
Yeah, true.
It
Actually,
sounds
I mean,
great, man. Really good.
thank you. Like, Aditya said that we can play 1 minute from the track, and I wanted you to hear my guitar solo. So I just gave him a timestamp of where to start.
Oh, it's good, man.
But
Really good playing. Good playing.
yeah.
But I'll be sure to share the entire
Thank
song with
you.
you. You can listen to it later too. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I will. So Chirag, I'd like you to take it away. I'd like you to take it away with your questions for Scott.
Yeah, I have I have like a lot to ask you, but I'm going to ask the crucial ones in this
Sure.
interview. I'm a guitarist based in India, right? And like India is not really known for these genres and guitar playing, So sometimes I feel a little stuck when it comes to how much I can express and go creative, creatively, how much I can express through my music. And so sometimes there are a lot of these restrictions when it comes to audience engagement because of the audience attention span and all these days. But I try to incorporate guitar in all my compositions, because that's me, that's my passion and identity. So I really am inspired that even till today, like you have been releasing so many guitar instrumental albums, and I wanted to understand what inspires you and how do you keep the narrative so interesting through an instrumental piece. Yeah.
Well, it's a hard question because I don't know myself. I you know what I mean? Like there's only so much that I can say in words, because music is sort of it's such an expressive thing that it's who we are. It's like it's like breathing, or like if someone asks you, what do you think about when you breathe?
Mm-hmm.
You'd have a hard time answering that question because it's become so normal for us to breathe.
Yeah.
So for me, it's so normal to play instrumental music. I haven't played with a lot of vocalists for the last 20 years. And I just sit down and I try to come up with music that I think would be interesting to me.
Wow.
And hopefully there will be people out there who share the same interests that I do.
Right.
They're probably going to be mostly guitar players, I would imagine.
Right.
But I think I have some fans that are not just guitar players. I hope.
Absolutely.
But probably a lot of them are guitar players.
Yeah, true. But it's great. Like you found that niche globally, and I'm just glad I can listen to your music and feel inspired.
Thank you. I think
Yeah.
that's it's hard to say. Because we're so in the moment when we sit down, like here I am with my guitar, I'm going to write a piece of music. How's it going to interest anyone? Right? Can't really think that way. You've got to think, how can it interest me? How can I be interested in it? And don't think about what other people think. And just be true to yourself and just write whatever you feel like writing and play whatever you feel like playing. And then you just hope that there's a niche for you out there in the world, that there will be people that also share your same philosophy of what's interesting and what's not. And that's all you can do, man. It's like you can't I don't like to imagine that I'm trying to be like a sellout and play music so I can be popular. Otherwise I wouldn't be playing this shit I'm playing now. Like I could play music that's much more centered for the masses and I could be, I could maybe I could be the male version of Taylor Swift, you know, and just write pop, real catchy pop tunes and with, you know, 2-bar guitar solos. But that wouldn't be me, you know. You have to be you. And if that attracts a very small audience, that's the way it goes. And if there, I mean, I look at some other guitar players and I go, well, they're lucky because they really like the music they're playing and it attracts way more of an audience than my music does. And they make a lot more money than I do. So in a way, I feel like, God damn it, I wish I made more money. You know, if my music wasn't so weird, I would make more money because I need money like anybody else. But I can't sacrifice my honesty. I can't. I have to be honest and play what I like. And so, and I have to just be happy with the amount of people that draws in. And if it doesn't draw, and if it's not going to make me rich, that's okay. It's just, you write your own paycheck in this business. You know that, right? That's just how.
But I wanted to, you developed this such a unique style, you know, like I want to, like, maybe you can give me some, a little tips to your practice routine or habits that you have that help you reach this style, because I feel like you fluently shift between bluesy playing to these jazzy rock lines, and like you do it so well that it's like a whole new style and it's unheard of, you know, like I can so how can you maybe give me a little brief about your practice routine, habits,
Well,
influences?
to be honest, I never really imagined that this is hard. It's another hard question, and I try to answer this in the most logical way that I can. I never really thought of myself as a person that would play like I do now, because there were many years where I thought I was just going to be a rock guitarist because that's how I grew up playing. I played probably for the first 20 years, all I played was rock and funk, you know, but not anything that had to do with jazz. Then I got into jazz. It's kind of all I thought about. I transcribed horn players, and so much of it is transcription. You know, listening and learning lines and learning ideas from different players and learning that jazz bebop vocabulary. Then, you know, there was a time where I played mostly funk music and R&B, and was very influenced by people like James Brown and Kool and the Gang and Tower of Power and Motown and that kind of music. So after a while, you just draw from all those influences when you play, and it's not something that I've ever consciously thought of, like, oh, I'm going to try to combine this and this. I never thought that. I just play, and I can't help but have those elements of all the music that I've listened to all the years I've been a musician from coming out in what I do. But there was one conscious decision, I think, and it might be important, is that even though I got into jazz, I never had the desire to get a hollow body and become a hollow body jazz guitarist, because that's the sound of jazz guitar, traditional jazz guitar. Wes Montgomery, George Benson, you can name 100 guys that play hollow body Gibson L5s with a clean sound, and they're more like pianists than guitar players. They actually are pianists, but on a guitar. And I never had the desire to do that. I wanted to keep my sound from being a rock and roll guy. And I never had the desire to ever leave that sound, because I've always had a heavy sound like Richie Blackmore or Jimmy Page or Jeff Beck or guys that play with distortion. Never ever wanted to sort of, for lack of a better word, ruin my voice, because that was my voice. And it continues to be my voice no matter what kind of music I'm influenced by. I'm a rock guitarist. I always will. So maybe that's the only thing that made me different, is that a lot of guys, when they get into jazz, they give up the electric guitar and they give up distortion. They get a hollow body and they become real jazz guitar players, playing standards, playing all the things you are.
Yeah.
I never had the slightest interest in playing standards for a living. You know, I never had any interest in it. Not to say that I don't appreciate other people who do it well, because there are guys that I like to listen to, and they're really great standards players, and they spend a lot of time reharmonizing standards and giving their own version of that standard. And many of them are able to play. Like you hear one jazz guitar playing All the Things You Are, and then you hear another jazz guitar player approach it from a completely different way, and he has his version of All the Things You Are. And I just never wanted to be another guy with, here's Scott Henderson's All the Things You Are. I don't think the world needs that from me. You know, it's other people do it much better than I do. So I just never ever became a traditional jazz guitar player, even though I'm very influenced by jazz and I love jazz music. I just never went there. So maybe that's why I'm different. Maybe that's the only reason that I'm different, is because I'm playing jazz with a rock tone and playing original music instead of standards. And maybe that's the only thing that sets me a little bit of apart from other jazz guitarists, you know, I guess.
Another question I wanted to ask you was that, like, what I love about your playing are these rhythmic aspects, like the rhythmic phrasing and the outside playing in a way that it doesn't sound like it's an outside playing, right? Like because a lot of people who play fusion and incorporate a lot of chromaticism and diminished runs and things like that. Like it clearly sounds like they're intentionally making it sound dissonant. But I find your playing like I feel like it's quite pleasing to the ear every time you play the outside notes, what people call, right? So wanted to also understand, how do you approach do you keep in mind any scales, chord tones while following the harmonic structure? Like, can you give me a little tips on how I can develop my playing that
Honestly,
way?
I think that's from listening and transcribing. And it also has to do with tone and being very comfortable with your tone. Like I know a saxophone player. His name's Steve Tavaloni. He's one of my favorite saxophone players, and he plays with Scott Kinsey a lot. And this is a guy that he can play like a C sharp on a C major 7 chord and just hold it. And you don't hear it as being outside. And why is that? How come when I do it, it sounds terrible, but when he does it, it sounds amazing? It's because of his phrase. It's because he knew when to play that note, and he had such beautiful tone that it just doesn't matter what he plays, because his tone is so amazing that almost he just is incapable of playing anything that sounds bad. Where we as guitar players, maybe that's a little harder to do, but I think if you play outside notes with the intention and with confidence and with great tone, somehow it sounds pleasing. And the only way I think that I've learned how to do that, to the extent that I do it, I'm not saying that I'm the best at it at all, but what's helped me the most is transcribing other players that play out and learning when did they go out. It's not so much a matter of what did they play, but when did they play it. That's more important. A lot of people, when they go outside, they just go up a half step or down a half step. So if you can do that, you can do anything, because that's every possible wrong note you could play by going up a half step. You're totally destroying the diatonic aspect of it. So if you can go up a half step, what can't you do? You can do anything, but it's when you do it, how you phrase it, and the tone you get when you're doing it. And that's what you learn from transcribing people that do it really well. And I've transcribed a lot of saxophone players, and they're so great at what they do, especially the modern guys like Michael Brecker, Joshua Redman, Chris Potter, these modern, more of the newer generation of saxophone players. But even the older generation, Coltrane is playing some really cool outside stuff that you can learn from, especially on albums like what's the Coltrane album where he's playing mostly on one chord vamps? A Love Supreme. He's playing a lot of interesting, really cool lines where you can tell that many sax players were influenced. Their outside stuff was influenced by the way Coltrane played on that record. So many people to learn from out there.
Yeah, true.
And so you just buy records by these great saxophone players and check it out from an analytical way. Like, when are they going outside? What are they playing when they go outside, and trying to emulate them, trying to copy what they do. Plus, you're less likely to be called a plagiarist when you copy saxophone players. If you copy guitar players, everybody knows where you got
the guitar licks.
There's some licks that I know, like, especially like someone like Schofield, who has such a voice. If you play that lick, everybody's going to say, "Oh, you copped that from Schofield." So I purposely am trying not to listen to guitar players. I mainly listen to horn players when I'm in my learning mode, in my transcription mode, learning from others. It's safer to learn from horn players.
Yeah. True, absolutely. And do you also make a conscious choice? Like, I understand transcribing helps a lot in terms of the natural playing and the phrasing, but do you also consciously maybe play with the metronome or something, and work on the rhythmic aspect? Like,
I do. I mean, I always play with a drum machine. Yeah, not a metronome, because that's kind of boring, but I'm always playing over loops and one chord vamps. Vamps with changes, but there's always a drum loop going on.
Got it.
I think that's the best way to, help you improve your time. Always. When I have students that have problems with time, I always say, just record yourself, because you'll hear yourself rushing or dragging if you listen to yourself. If you tape yourself and listen, you may not hear it when you're playing, but you'll hear it when you listen back, and you'll go, "Oh, I need to be more conscious of my time." And if you play with a drum machine, you're more likely to get used to playing with better time. It definitely helps.
True.
In the interest of time, Chirag and Scott, I'd like to come to the last part of our agenda, and I'd like both of you to participate. It's the rapid fire.
Sure.
And I have some very interesting questions to break the ice. Shall we go?
Yeah.
So the first question for you guys, what is that one song that always makes you cry?
Probably that's Remember Me from Coco. It's such a beautiful movie.
It is.
It
is.
That song is just beautiful, and it reminds me of the film. I've probably seen that film like 5 times.
With your daughter?
Yeah. We love that movie.
Got it. Chirag, what about you?
One song that makes me cry is Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. It was frozen for a bit, but yeah, now we can hear you.
Sorry. Yeah. So, Love of Your Life by Queen. That's my that's my
wow.
favorite.
Which one?
Love of Your Life by Queen.
Love of My Life.
I don't even know if I've heard that. I probably have, but I don't recognize the name.
Yeah, it's just Freddie Mercury. It's his.
Oh man, he was the
Yeah,
best, right? I
yeah,
mean, he was so amazing. Oh my God.
yeah,
I love
true.
Queen. Was such a great band.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the contrary,
And
what?
interesting,
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
interestingly,
Yeah.
Queen Freddie Mercury isn't from the same state that I live in, Gujarat. He's from here. So yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So on the contrary, what is your
Yeah, you can go
favorite
on.
guilty pleasure song?
Guilty pleasure song. I don't know. Guilty. You mean that's like a song that most people would say is crappy, but you like
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have a lot of those. So I'm trying to think. There's so many. You go first. I can't think. I'm trying to think.
I mean, that's a really difficult question. I have a bunch of those actually.
Maybe if you had to pick one. Yeah.
I think as of now, one artist that's coming to my mind is yeah, I think "Toxic" by Britney Spears. I really love that song, and I don't know why. At least in my community, Britney Spears is not really yeah, like yeah, I don't know why it's not really heard much, but
Got it.
There's too many for me. Maybe My Sharona. It's a stupid tune, but I like it.
Nice. Interesting choice. So given like both of you've had extensive experience in playing different genres. So I wanted to understand as to have you engaged in interdisciplinary explorations, drawing inspiration from unrelated fields, maybe not music, maybe visual arts or literature or science, for example, to infuse new perspectives and creativity in your musical compositions. Have you had any instances like that? If so, what were they?
I haven't. Maybe there's certain emotions that we all have, right?
Okay.
I look at composing like a job, like just somebody goes to every day to the bank and they sit down and they do their job. I look at composition the same way. Try to write something every day. Sit down. You may not be in the mood. You may be in a really dark mood and you don't really feel like sitting in that chair, but you do it anyway. And I have to say that some of my better music has come when I didn't want to be doing it. That I didn't really want to be there, but I put myself there and I made myself do it. And I came up with some stuff that I really like. And so sometimes you can be in a really dark mood and that mood can be very productive. So you shouldn't, I don't think people should wait until they're all happy and oh, I can't wait to sit in my chair and compose. That doesn't mean they're going to compose something good. In fact, there was a famous composer, I don't remember who he was, but he said, if you're having a good time composing, you're probably writing a piece of shit. Which is, I think, kind of funny. And there's also like another saying by a composer who said, the hardest part of composing is the application of the ass to the chair. So so these are the kind of things I remember. It's like sometimes you sit down and your mood can have something to do with, and that's psychological. That's also medical. It's also just the part of how our brains work, that we can be in a really pissed off, shitty mood and still write cool stuff that we like. So that is something that I keep in mind, that don't fool yourself into thinking that just because you're in a good mood and you want to sit down and compose, that it's always going to work out the way you think it is. Just something to think about.
Sure. Yeah. What about you, Chirag?
And for me, like I've constantly been like inspired by my um, by like different moments in my life to write songs. If
Mm.
you know, like when I, especially the hard times, those are the ones that make me write a song. So when I'm going through like like a tough time, in whether it is in my career or whether it's between a friend, my social life, or anything like that, it when I like learn something new and grow from it, that's that learning, I try to translate that and express it in my song, so that if anyone else is probably struggling, can probably get inspired through through my message. So oftentimes I use lyrics as a way to express it,
Okay.
but also in music, in terms of the musicality, I feel like apart from the influences that I have, apart from my guitar idols and the all-time favorites, apart from them, I constantly keep exploring what's going on today, and what's going on in different communities, because I have friend circles, I have families who listen to different kinds of music, which is very different from what I do. I sometimes just try to sit and listen with them and try to understand what about, and that kind of sometimes inspires me to implement that in my music, and cater to my local community here as well as global community, so that's been an
Lovely.
interesting journey for me in musically. Yeah.
Lovely. Lovely. So
Yeah.
my second
In a
last
way, we said
question.
the same thing. In a way, it's the same
Yeah. 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 You
emotional
guys.
Yeah.
experiences
Yeah.
Yeah.
that,
True.
have an effect on your music.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
My second last question for today, as part of the rapid fire. What can you tell me about firstly for Scott, what can you tell me about the upcoming India tour scheduled at Bengaluru on the 12th and 13th of April at Windmills, powered by Total Environment Music Foundation?
Well, it's weird how that happened.
Hmm.
Before, I hadn't come to India with anyone else except for Sandeep.
Hmm.
And Sandeep always brought us to India, right? But
Yeah.
this time, what happened is we weren't planning this concert in Bangalore. What
Hmm.
happened was we had a show in Tel Aviv, and
Okay.
we were supposed to go from China to Tel Aviv and then back to Europe, but the
Hmm.
promoter canceled the Tel Aviv gig because
Got
of
it.
the war, which
Right.
was, in my opinion, was a very cowardly thing to do, because I have been in Israel in times where this
Hmm.
kind of stuff was happening, and
Yeah.
those people in Israel, they are fearless. They're not letting this stop them from having a good time and going out and enjoying themselves and going to clubs. And if I did play in Israel, it would have been a sold out show. So,
Right.
I have guitar player friends in Tel Aviv, and they were telling me this guy was an idiot for canceling that show, because
Oh.
people would have still gone to that show.
Hmm.
So I don't know why he chickened out and canceled it, but there are no flights being canceled to Tel Aviv,
Yeah.
because there's always some bullshit going on there, some wars and stuff like that. It's been
Yeah.
like that for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And those people don't let it ruin
Affect.
their
Yeah.
lives. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
fearless.
Yeah.
So I was pretty mad that he canceled the show, because I had already bought tickets.
Hmm.
So luckily, our friend Tony Das,
Yeah.
I called Tony
Hmm.
and said, Tony, like, what could we do? Is there any way we could possibly come to India? Because I've already got tickets,
Hmm.
through Delhi,
Yeah.
to Tel Aviv. There was a connection in Delhi already.
Got it.
Tony said, let me ask Windmills. And luckily they were into it.
Yeah.
So all we had to do was change one leg of the tickets
Mhm.
to go to Bangalore. And I'm so thankful, because it filled that gap that we had on our tour.
Yeah.
Normally, if we had had more time, I would have called up Sandeep and said, Sandeep, can you also get us to Mumbai? Can you get us to Delhi? Can you get us? There was no time because the tickets to LA had already been bought, and the tickets back to Paris for the guys in the band had already been bought. So we had a time constraint. That's why we're only playing Bangalore and not other cities in India. And the reason is because I have to be back in LA, for personal reasons. I have to be back in LA at a certain time. So the tour could only go, it's already a long tour. So I think 2 months on the road is enough for anybody. But I had to get back to LA. And so that, unfortunately, I would have loved to stay longer and try to play in Mumbai and try to play in Delhi and try to play in some other cities in India, but there was just no time. So that's what happened. But I'm really looking forward to Windmills because I've played there before, and it's a great sounding room, and it's a really fun place to play, and I'm really looking forward to it.
So do you have something special for the crowd at Bangalore in terms of what you're curating for us?
Well, what will be special is that we will have played 46 gigs before we get there.
Wow.
So the band will be about as hot as it can get.
Yeah. I can imagine.
You'll be singing us our best, I hope. Because usually when the more gigs you play, the more things just come together, right? And so by that time, it should be pretty smoking, I hope. Yeah, we'll see. I hope so.
Sure thing. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person there.
Yeah, me too.
My
It's gonna be
city.
fun.
It'll be fun.
Same. I'm really looking forward to listening to you live and meeting you. I had no idea you were coming to India, and I'm so happy to find this out. And in fact, even I have performed at Windmills a year ago, and I'm so glad you're gonna be on that stage and performing. I'm definitely gonna be there. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's a great sounding room. It's a fun place to play. Great audience, and sound is really good. So,
true.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have fun there. We won't be playing our own gear, so I'm going to be talking to Tony, trying to make sure that the gear that we rent is the right gear for us. Not easy to find the gear that we're looking for, but we'll find it, and I'm sure everything will be good.
Yeah, Tony will sort you
we
out.
have Tony to help us.
He'll sort you out for sure. You don't have to worry at all.
Yeah, Tony's a great guy, man. He's a great guitar player, and he's a great friend.
Yeah, he's great.
And I'm really thankful to him for all the help he's given us.
Yeah. In fact, I was talking to him this morning, and
oh, really?
He was surprised to find out that he wanted to reach out to me to do this interview, but we connected long back. He wasn't aware of it.
Oh yeah. Tony's such a good friend, and I've known him for such a long time.
Yeah.
And he's just one of the nicest people on earth. And I'm just really, really happy to have him as a friend. And he really helped us so much by getting us this gig in Bangalore. I'm so happy, So thanks, Tony. Thank you.
Marvelous. I have one last question for you, gentlemen. Down in the distant horizon, what would you like to be remembered as?
Honestly, it doesn't have anything to do with music. I just want to be remembered as a nice person.
Got it.
That's all I care about, really. Because when you make music for people, hopefully it makes them happy. Right? That's the purpose of the whole thing, right? We take ourselves sometimes too seriously. We're just basically show business people. We're entertainers. And I know that it's important to make good art. And I know that we all want to make the best art that we can make. But what's that for? It's to make people happy. It's to make people enjoy in their lives more. And you could do that just as well by just being a good person, being nice to people, right? Because that's what music is, just an extension, hopefully, of what you are as a person.
And you, Chirag?
Yeah. I think, I want to be remembered as someone who followed his passion and pursued it throughout life. and made a living out of it. I feel like that itself is great to inspire a lot of people. You know, and at the same time, obviously, being a nice human being and being known as a kind man, like how Scott mentioned. I think these are the two ways I want to be remembered. Yeah.
Marvelous. Great answer for a closure. This interview will be additionally aired on my radio show on Big FM Shillong and Aizawl, two incredible radio stations in the northeastern part of India, on the Sunday primetime show. And it'll also be out on my YouTube channel, Aditya Veera 1994. And it'll be streaming on all major audio streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, name it. Thank you so much, Scott and Chirag.
Thank you. I just want to mention one more thing. If people don't know, if they go on my website, scotthenderson.net, if you look on the left, there's there's tabs. And if you go to the message board, there's a place where people can ask me questions. And it's sort of like my way of trying to give back to the guitar community.
Okay.
Because people have been so kind to me. Like there's a lot of guitar players that have really helped me in my quest for like knowledge, and especially about gear and tone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I have this message board just for the purpose of people can ask me questions like, have you ever tried this? Or what do you think about this? And if I can help you in any way, I like to do that, and it's free, and it's just, you just join the message board and you can pop questions anytime. And I've had this message board going for like 20 years. And it's a way for anybody that has questions about anything. And if I can help, I'm happy to do it, because I like to try to pay back all the nice people that have helped me.
Lovely. Lovely. And I really hope that you guys enjoyed being on the podcast.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad
Yeah,
it's
thank
been
you.
such an incredible blessing, honor, and a privilege, Chirag and Scott. Do stay in touch, and I'm really hoping to see the two of you in my city very soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks
Thank
so
you
much.
All right,
Thank
then. Take
you.
care.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet
forward.
you, and see you
Nice to
soon.
meet you too.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.